And meanwhile, Kenya continues to carve out a distinct place in the community of nations. As a source of peacekeepers for places torn apart by conflict, a host for refugees driven from their homes. A leader for conservation, following the footprints of Wangari Maathai. Kenya is one of the places on this continent. That truly observes freedom of the press, and their fearless journalists and courageous civil society members. And in the United States, we see the legacy of Kip Keino every time a Kenyan wins one of our marathons. And maybe the First Lady of Kenya is going to win one soon. I told the president he has to start running with his wife. We want him to stay fit. So there's much to be proud of, much progress to lift up. It's a good news story. But we also know the progress is not complete. There are still problems that shadow ordinary Kenyans every day. Challenges that can deny you your livelihood, and sometimes deny you lives. As in America and so many countries around the globe, economic growth has not always been broadly shared. Sometimes people at the top do very well, but ordinary people still struggle. Today, a young child in Nyanza province is 4 times more likely to die than a child in Central province. Even though they are equal in dignity and the eyes of God. That's a gap that has to be closed. A girl in Rift. Valley is far less likely to attend secondary school than a girl in Nairobi. That's a gap that has to be closed. Across the country, one study shows corruption costs Kenyans 250,000 jobs every year because every shilling that's paid as a bribe could be put into the pocket of somebody who's actually doing an honest day's work. And despite the hard-earned political progress that I spoke of, those political gains still have to be protected. New laws and restrictions could close off the space where civil society gives individual citizens a voice and holds leaders accountable. Old tribal divisions and ethnic divisions can still be stirred up. I want to be very clear here: a politics that's based solely on tribe and ethnicity is a politics that's doomed to tear a country apart. It is a failure of imagination. Of course, here, in Kenya, we also know the specter of terrorism has touched far too many lives. And we remember the Americans and Kenyans who died side by side in the attack on our embassy in the 90s. We remember the innocent Kenyans who were taken from us at Westgate Mall. We weep for the nearly 150 people slaughtered at Garissa. Including so many students who had such a bright future before them. We honor the memory of so many other innocent Kenyans whose lives have been lost in this struggle. So Kenya is at a crossroads, a moment filled with peril, but also enormous promise. And with the rest of my time here today, I'd like to talk about how you can seize the moment. How you can make sure we leave behind a world that's better, a world that we borrowed from our children. When I first came to Sub-Saharan Africa as president, I made clear my strong belief that the future of Africa is up to Africans. For too long, I think that many look to the outside for salvation and focused on somebody else being at fault for the problems of the continent. And as my sister said, ultimately we are each responsible for our own destiny. And I'm here as president of a country that sees Kenya as an important partner. I'm here as a friend who wants Kenya to succeed. And the pillars of that success are clear: strong democratic governance, development that provides opportunity for all people and not just some, a sense of national identity that rejects conflict for a future of peace and reconciliation. And today, we can see that future for Kenya on the horizon. But tough choices are going to have to be made in order to arrive at that destination. In the United States, I always say that what makes America exceptional is not the fact that we're perfect. It's the fact that we struggle to improve. We're self-critical. We work to live up to our highest values and ideals. Knowing that we're not always going to achieve them perfectly, but we keep on trying to perfect our union. And what's true for America is also true for Kenya. You can't be complacent and accept the world just as it is. You have to imagine what the world might be and then push and work toward that future. Progress requires that you honestly confront the dark corners of our own past. Extend rights and opportunities to more of your citizens, see the differences and diversity of this country as a strength. Just as we in America try to see the diversity of our country as a strength and not a weakness. So you can choose the path to progress, but it requires making some important choices. First and foremost, it means continuing down the path of a strong, more inclusive, more accountable, and transparent democracy. Democracy begins with a peacefully elected government. It begins with elections. But it doesn't stop with elections. So your constitution. Offers a roadmap to governance that's more responsive to the people through protections against unchecked power. More power in the hands of local communities. For this system to succeed, there also has to be space for citizens to exercise their rights. And we saw the strength of Kenya's civil society in the last election. When groups collected reports of incitement so that violence could be stopped before it spun out of control. And the ability of citizens to organize and advocate for. Change, that's the oxygen upon which democracy depends. Democracy is sometimes messy, and for leaders, sometimes it's frustrating. Democracy means that somebody is always complaining about something. Nobody is ever happy in a democracy about their government. If you make one person happy, somebody else is unhappy. Then sometimes somebody who you made happy, later on, now they're not happy. They say, "What have you done for me lately?" But that's the nature of democracy. That's why it works. Is because it's constantly challenging leaders to up their game and to do better. And such civic participation and freedom is also essential for rooting out the cancer of corruption. Now, I want to be clear. Corruption is not unique to Kenya. I mean, I want everybody to understand that there's no country that's completely free of corruption. Certainly here in the African continent there are many countries that deal with this problem. And I want to assure you I speak about it wherever I go, not just here in Kenya. So I don't want everybody to get too sensitive. But the fact is, too often, here in Kenya as is true in other places, corruption is tolerated because that's how things have always been done. People just think that that is sort of the normal state of affairs. And there was a time in the United States where that was true, too. My hometown of Chicago was infamous for Al Capone and the mob and organized crime corrupting law enforcement. But what happened was that over time people got fed up. And leaders stood up and they said, "We're not going to play that game anymore." And you changed a culture and you changed habits. Here in Kenya, it's time to change habits, and decisively break that cycle. Because corruption holds back every aspect of economic and civil life. It's an anchor that weighs you down and prevents you from achieving what you could. If you need to pay a bribe and hire somebody's brother who's not very good and doesn't come, to work in order to start a business, well, that's going to create less jobs for everybody. If electricity is going to one neighborhood because they're well connected, and not another neighborhood, that's going to limit development of the country as a whole. If someone in public office is taking a cut that they don't deserve, that's taking away from those who are paying their fair share. So this is not just about changing one law, although it's important to have laws on the books that are actually being enforced. It's important that not only low-level corruption is punished, but folks at the top. If they are taking from the people, that has to be addressed as well. But it's not something that is just fixed by laws, or that any one person can fix. It requires a commitment by the entire nation, leaders and citizens, to change habits and to change culture. Tough laws need to be on the books. And the good news is, your government is taking some important steps in the right direction. People who break the law and violate the public trust need to be prosecuted. NGOs have to be allowed to operate, who shine a spotlight on what needs to change. And ordinary people have to stand up and say, enough is enough. It's time for a better future. And as you take these steps, I promise that America will continue to be your partner in supporting investments in strong, democratic institutions. Now, we're also going to work with you to pursue the second pillar of progress. And that is development that extends economic opportunity and dignity for all of Kenya's people. America partners with Kenya in areas where you're making enormous progress. And we focus on what Kenyans can do for themselves and building capacity, on entrepreneurship, where Kenya is becoming an engine for innovation. On access to power, where Kenya is developing clean energy that can reach more people. On the important issue of climate change, where Kenya's recent goal to reduce its emissions has put it in the position of being a leader on the continent, on food security, where Kenyan crops are producing more to meet the demands of your people and a global market, and on health, where Kenya has struck huge blows against HIV/AIDS and other diseases. While building up the capacity to provide better care in your communities.